Welcome to Leadership Devotionals. For today, we are on the 10th installment of the principles, the lessons that we can learn from this truly servant leader, Nehemiah. He's not only a leader, but he's also a true servant because he was the cupbearer of the Emperor King Artaxerxes. But he did an awesome job rallying the people, bringing them into the vision, letting them buy into the vision. And with that, they were already doing great with the building of the wall of Jerusalem. And so as the wall began to grow, so did the opposition. And at this time, lives were threatened. We can read that in Nehemiah 4 verse 1. When the wall reached half its final height, just imagine that people were seeing the level of accomplishment that they are doing. And so when the wall has reached its final height, the people had almost unstoppable momentum. But the opposition, what did the opposition did? They this time embraced open warfare. And Nehemiah's enemies attacked a number of places at once. And so since they cannot stop the people from, doing and working on the wall, this time they literally made war with the workers. And yet, Nehemiah's rallying call instilled courage on those who were working. In Nehemiah chapter 4 verse 14, it records, "Don't be afraid of them." Nehemiah rallied the people and said, "Don't be afraid of them. Remember the Lord." Yes, the God that we serve, the God of Israel, the God of Jerusalem. Remember the Lord. He is great and awesome. And so he rallied the people to fight for your families, fight for your sons and for your daughters, fight for your wives and for your homes. You can read this in Nehemiah chapter 4 verse 14. He did not just use inspirational words though, but rather he paired words with action. He did the hard sacrificial work of coordinating, these working parties into fighting groups. Just imagine that. These were workers, but at the same time, he organized them. They are working on one section of the wall, they become one platoon, something like that. And so these workers were organized into fighting groups. Shields and soldiers protected the stone masons. Trumpets were used to indicate when the fighting becomes so intense that there is a need for reinforcement in that place. An expectation of the servant is that leader will have, that leader will have a loyalty and duty to care for those that he or she is leading. Yes, as leaders, it is our responsibility to care for the people in our charge. That's why Nehemiah organized his groups. As Simon Sinek which says, leadership is not being in charge, but leadership is taking care of those in your charge. This is what Nehemiah did. Now, what to do with the opposition? John F. Kennedy said, leadership and learning are indispensable to each other. Leadership and learning. In fact, the word educated or the word education comes from the Latin word edocere. Edocere, which means to lead forth. So it's a beautiful connection. John F. Kennedy said, leadership and learning are indispensable to each other, and learning is basically education. And the Latin root word of education is edocere, which means to lead forth. It is a crucial task of the servant leader to educate not only his people, but even those that oppose him. The education process involves understanding where growth needs to take place and how to build on strengths that already exist. If the person has this strength, work on that, build on that, and it will create the bigger and the greater potential on that person. The process often means creating a learning context in which the leader can take the group into a journey of discovery. Oh, isn't that beautiful? Yes, when we educate, when we send our people to do benchmarking trips, to observe firsthand what are the good things that are being done in your sister institution or in your even in your competitors. That is a journey of discovery. That is learning firsthand. That is still education. At other times, a one-to-one learning experience rather than group instruction may have advantages. Yes, there are times you don't just, leave the learning process to a group. Sometimes you have to coach one-on-one. Sometimes you have to mentor on the person. And this is not just only an advantage to persons, but even to groups, including dealing with power blocks, okay? Including dealing with power blocks, with factions in your organization, by isolating, okay, each of the power groups. And when you do that, you get to rally them to cooperate with each other. The leadership challenge requires careful consideration of how learning can proceed in order to invite genuine participation and engagement. If the leader is really involved and concerned with the learning of his people, he will monitor the learning process. He will be part of creating the modules or, sharing his ideas so that those who are creating the modules, the lectures, the PowerPoint slides will be able to get the grasp of what the leader wants to happen. And so the leadership challenge requires careful consideration on how the learning can proceed. That calls for the leader's immersion in that process, so that in order genuine participation and engagement can happen among your people. Nehemiah, now let's go back to Nehemiah. Nehemiah invited many of the troubled. Okay, some of his workers were troubled, some of his workers were confused, some of his workers were discouraged. And with that, Nehemiah invited many of them. Not only his workers were troubled, but also he invited the troublemakers. The person, the opposition, the person who were waging a war with him to discourage him, to sabotage his project. He invited them to his table and here sought to engage and re-educate. Just imagine that. Even the opposition, he invited them into his table so that he can have a conversation with them. He can engage them and eventually re-educate them. He was not just passionate about wall building, which was the main task, but he was also concerned about social justice. He related his anger about the way some were treating the poor in the community. We can read that in Nehemiah 5 verse 6. And he responded not only with words, but also with decisive action. As the servant leader, Nehemiah saw transformation in his colleagues and in his community. Fellow leaders, we can learn here so much. We know that when we are dealing with conflict, with troubled people in our organization, with troublemakers, there are 3 R's that you can use. You retire them, you retrench them, or you re-educate them. If you are not so much concerned, or if you are already tired, or whatever reason there is, yes, you can use the 2 first R. Either you retire or retrench them. But the most beautiful and yet also definitely challenging stratagem for dealing with this is to re-educate your people. Be patient with them. Work with them. Engage with them. Converse with them. For all you know, you will be able to win their loyalty, to win them to the organization, just by turning their passion of opposition into passion for motivation and performance. You are in for a lot of success. And so this is what Nehemiah did. To solve the conflict, he engaged with the people who opposed him and re-educate them. Told them of his thoughts and the benefits that will happen to the organization if they all cooperate and they all rally together to the vision that was entrusted to him by God. There's a popular saying that says, conquer your friend. Conquer your enemy by making him a friend. Talking of conflict, resolve it by re-educating. Befriend the opposition, just like what Nehemiah did. God bless you. Hello, fellow leaders. If you have been blessed with the devotional that you have just heard, don't forget to like, share, or subscribe. Because when you do that, more people, more leaders will be blessed with the same blessing that you have experienced. In YouTube channel, click subscribe to Good Shepherd Consultants. God bless you.